we were having a conversation. They said, "What's your vision?" I said, "I want our city to become the startup and small business capital of this nation. I want people to recognize that this is the place entrepreneurs are going to get started and be successful." And someone in the back of the room raised her hand and she said, "Mayor, you already are the startup and small business capital of the nation. And what we really need is for a mayor who recognizes it and champions it around the nation." And so I said, if you do what you're doing by starting businesses and putting people to work, then I'll go out and I'll be your chief marketer. We'll talk about what we can do together. And my team and I went back to the office that night feeling pretty good about where Denver was headed. We were still in the throes of at least the aftershocks of the recession and still formulating our plan. But that night was pivotal for us because we went back and said, what can we do to further inspire and encourage the ideas economy in Denver and really promote kind of this entrepreneurial spirit. And we really thought about it and we said, sometimes it's about connecting people to capital, customers, and maybe that little bit of oomph that kind of propels them forward and gives them a little hope that indeed their idea will work. And so we began the process of putting more money, even though we were still challenged with the economy, but putting more money into a revolving loan fund, reducing our default. We came in and our default rate in our revolving loan fund was eating up our equity, our ability to lend. And so we were sitting at almost 20% default in that loan fund. And so the team went to work and began to restructure and rework some of those loans, getting rid of bad loans, buying folks out, and now our default rate is at 5%. A more respectable, normal rate of default. And now we have more money to lend to small businesses and entrepreneurs who have ideas that we believe in, want to invest in. And so we can partner with folks like the entrepreneurs here at Industry and Battery 621. We can partner with the folks across the street at The Source and others that we're doing around the city. And so not only do we say to our entrepreneurs, keep going, we're going to market you, but we're now saying we'll help you with your ideas and we'll help you leverage your ideas and keep going. We've done a couple other things. We did the capital matrix, which the first of its kind in Denver. We really did a venture capital roundtable to find out what kind of money was here. And we had a premise or assumption that nobody was in Denver. Venture capitalists were like bypassing Denver. They weren't doing anything here. And in our roundtable, they rebuked that. They said, absolutely not. We're here. There's a lot of money here. We need people to marry us with the ideas and the entrepreneurs, and we will support, and we'll be there. And to some extent, we've seen some of that come out of the woodwork. So we put together this capital matrix, which talked about who the venture capitalists were and the angel investors, the mezzanine investors, who they invested in and the kind of money they were investing. And our entrepreneurs can use that to kind of marry their ideas and create opportunities in that vein. So we as a city, under my administration, want to be more your partner. And we can't invest in all ideas, just like any capital investor, but we have an idea that we think can take off, kind of like Raven Brick, which, with a small investment from the city has grown from a very small company that I announced my mayoral campaign in, to now a $10 million company and growing. In just 3 years, they've more than tripled their revenues. Those are sort of things that we want to keep doing in Denver, because when we look at cities like Minneapolis, and they almost have triple the number of Fortune 500 companies that we have, you wonder why in the world are Fortune 500 companies choosing Minneapolis over Denver? But what we find, a secret that they have, is that they nurture their small businesses. They nurture their startups and they grow them and get them to that point where they go public or they become the bigger company. So that's really kind of what we're trying to foster here. We're trying to deepen our bench in Denver. We're trying to say that we're not just so focused on the Carmelo Anthony of the world, we're also looking at that bench player, the role player in our community who helps us to attract Fortune 500 companies. We're investing in things that allow you to be kind of the downstream supply chain participant of companies that might want to look at Denver. We're really selling the energy of our entrepreneurial small business community, saying this is what you want to be a part of. You want to be a part. These folks can supply what you need. They can be your partners in your growth and your opportunities. and you want to invest in them as well. And we're trying to harness the energy that the millennial generation is bringing to the city, along with all the investments in transit and everything else that we're doing. So this is really about the ideas economy. This is about Denver taking its rightful place in the global economy marketplace and saying we're here. We got small businesses, we got medium businesses, we've got large businesses, and we're here to compete, and we're here to connect across the world. So those are the things that we're focused on in the city of Denver. I'm sure there's some things you want to talk about. I just want to give kind of a 10,000 foot view. Yes, sir.
So that vision is fantastic. What are the biggest hurdles you face to actually implement that vision? What are the things you're coming up against that if we knew about, we might actually be able to help you break through those?
Well, we're going to work together to figure it out, because I think one is the fragility of small business. I mean, and startups. You know, only 1 in 5 survive in terms of success rates, and so we've got to change that number. We've got to make sure that we're able to keep these small businesses alive as much as we can. It's about making sure those technical assistance that small entrepreneurs are willing to ask for assistance. And that's one reason why you have the small business competition, to kind of underscore the needs for technical assistance and understanding things necessary to be successful. That's why we partnered with Downtown Partnership on Startup Week, to kind of highlight really the energy of entrepreneurialism and small business startup. So, I mean, we just got to keep working on the things that really doom businesses, the smart decisions, being honest and candid about what you need. You know, when we were all shocked when we surveyed small businesses and said, what do you need to be successful? What did you think we thought the answer would be? Money, right? What they told us? Access to customers. We need customers. And I get it, right? They say we put our little money together and do this. Now we need folks to buy the product or to engage in what we're doing. And so we got that. So it really changed the way we kind of approach it. But great question. Yes?
You've done a great job in supporting entrepreneurs, but there's one area, and we've talked about it before, that's been stifling a lot of entrepreneurs who are here. The software tax, where you're treating web developers like it's a service, like it's a product and not a service. I just was wondering if you had an update on
Sure.
where you are in kind of changing the interpretation.
Our treasurer, the chief financial officer, Paul Washington in the Office of Economic Development all sat down and tried to figure this out. They've met with software developers who thought they were being double taxed. I think they were able to do away with that myth based on where it is taxed within the process or within the maturation of the software to the end user. But what we have found is now a more cooperative working relationship with the software industry, that we've gotten to a space where they've approved the handbook that educates software developers and the buyer, consumer, on when the product is taxed within the market. And what we've also tried to educate the market, and it's with all of us, and I had to learn this as an elected official, is you got to step back. When you think about taxing policy, people say, oh, your taxing policy is overwhelming, it's too much. What we try to do is to encourage people to step back and look at your overall taxing structure. Whereas we may tax software, there's something else we don't tax where another jurisdiction does. And so they're usually trade-offs. Not everyone taxes software. We do, several other municipalities do, but not everybody does. We don't tax some things other municipalities tax. So it's a trade-off, and you want to look at your overall tax burden versus what areas you're being taxed on. But the bottom line to your question is I think, have found some good ground with the industry, and some better understanding is out there after sitting down, and we're able to move forward. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Good question.
Along those lines, Mayor, so...
Here's to everyone, by the way.
Yes.
It bleeds into regional cooperation. So Douglas County may not be taxing, or maybe offering different incentives, or Aurora versus Denver, which went on for years and years between Webb and Tower C.
Yeah.
Is there any plans to convene, maybe through Dr. Cog or the Mayor's Council, some type of summit to see, because we are a metro area, so we get some commonality of tax policy and regulations and stuff of that nature, because
Yeah.
you can see a cannibalization. It's always at the gate, the cannibalization.
Sure.
I'll move my business across the line, and then my web developers aren't taxed, and then Denver loses out.
Yeah, so again, the reason why we say step back and look at overall tax and burdens, because you'll find Denver being one of the more tax-friendly cities in the metro region. I think we are at the top in terms of friendliness and the amount of what we tax. But here's the point the challenge that we have. Municipalities are different because of our governance structure. You only find the kind of government structure one other time in Denver in the state of Colorado that Denver has. Strong mayor, form of government. We are city and county. Only other location like that is Broomfield. The next closest is probably Colorado Springs, but they're only a city, not a county. So they have county commissioners that they have to deal with and work with and interact with. So the whole body of governance is different and the powers are different. And so that's part of your challenge. Not to say it's never been done before. I think what works better is that we cannot play one against the other. Okay? For example, if a business is looking at Aurora or sitting in Aurora, I can't go get them. And same for Aurora, they can't go into Denver saying, we'll bring you over. In other words, I can't even offer you an incentive to come from Aurora. And so we have a regional cooperative agreement that we don't poach from one another. If you as a company A decide to move from Denver to Aurora because the tax, that's up to you. You're not going to get anything from Aurora to incentivize you over. You make that decision. And that's kind of kept the balance at bay. Yeah, but good question.
Yeah, really good question. Sasha, I know you had a question.
Okay.
I spoke with my builder yesterday, and he told me at the building department, the review time is going to be 6 to 8 weeks for permits, and if the fire department needs to look at our project, it's going to be 3 months.
Oh my.
So the cost for us is enormous, this delay. It's citywide, I imagine it's huge. I've been to the building department several times over the last 5 years, and what people tell me is that the process for applying for permits today is a little different from what it was like 30 years ago. So in our organization, EO, we have experts in process management, technology, and construction trades. How can we help the building department be a little bit more efficient in how it deals with this load?
Part of what you're dealing with, Sasha, is that we have been absolutely down in the city overwhelmed by the number of permit applications. We are seeing anywhere from a 200 to 250% increase. June, we saw the highest number of permits filed in the city of Denver, applications filed in the city of Denver, than we've seen in a matter of a decade. I mean, in 1 month, outstripped the entire decade. We haven't seen those kind of numbers before. I mean, the city's on fire. That's not an excuse to delay your project. And the only other challenge is that he has 2008 staffing with 2002 permit numbers. So in other words, our permit numbers have gone through the roof and we've not increased the staffing. So he came into my office just 2 months ago regarding part of the budget process and say, I've got to ramp up, otherwise we'll never move Sasha's project. Or he'll be delayed much longer than you should be. Costing you money, frustrating you, maybe even run you out of the city to take your project somewhere else. And so he's ramping up to do that. What I'm going to suggest you do is talk directly to Brad Buchanan. Okay, to expedite that. And we'll make sure that we get your information and we connect you directly with Brad.
Thank you.
Okay.
I do have another question on
Yeah.
a similar note. Older buildings being converted into very different uses than they were originally intended, like the one we're sitting in now.
Yeah.
And the concern is that the fire department sets up its own rules, and sometimes these rules become prohibitive from doing projects like this. Is there any kind of oversight on the rulemaking that the fire department sets? And is there any community involvement in that rulemaking?
There is usually at a time when they go and adjust their, first of all, they're governed by the international codes, okay? So they're not arbitrarily making up rules. And we buy into, I buy into in terms of purchasing, but we accept those codes and city council accepts them annually or whenever they're changed. And that's where the public process occurs.
Thank you.
Okay? Yes, back here.
Nope.
We've got a lot of cities out there now that are competing for the same market share, entrepreneurs, startups. They all want to be they're throwing probably more money than Denver's going to be able to throw at certain things. In business, you can succeed if you focus on, you want to be known for service, you want to be known for innovation, you want to be known for price.
Right.
If you're looking at Denver as a business versus these competitors out there that are trying to create their own innovation centers and other programs out there, what's Denver competing?
How
How are you executing on making us known?
Sure. Well, first of all, I could be on the road every week if I wanted to. And I'm not just talking about in the United States, I'm talking about all over the world. Every day there are invitations to China, Brazil, Australia, to talk about what Denver is doing. But there are a couple things that drive Denver. And I'll tell you today that our attraction to the burgeoning or emerging workforce is what really is attractive to companies. We have a company looking at Denver today. They're in Denver right now. This is I can't tell you who they are, but it's a Fortune 1000 company. They want to bring an operation here, 425 employees, average income of $90,000+. Okay. They know all Denver. I mean, they've done their homework. They can tell you what the average education is. They can tell you 300 days of sunshine. In fact, the CEO commented today. He said, so of the 30, he said, of the 65 days of no sunshine in Denver, we got one of them. I say, yeah, you got one of them. But it's a great day to be in Denver, Colorado. I really believe this company's coming. It's going to be a game changer when they get here. I mean, once they announce they're coming, this is going to be an absolute game changer for Denver. What they look at is our ability to, and he said this, our workforce. We need a highly intelligent, highly motivated workforce who wants to be in Denver. We have it. We have it. We want a city that has invested in sustainability and transit. We have it. We want a city where the taxing regulations and policies are fair and inviting to a business like ours. We have some of the best in the nation. People don't believe that. We want to be where innovation is natural and energy is through the roof. You don't find a better place than Denver, Colorado today. And I'm the mayor, so you know I'm the biggest cheerleader, right? But let me tell you what happened. Many of you may have missed this, but it was in the paper yesterday. University of Boston conducted a survey with mayors all over the country and asked, where do you turn? What cities do you turn to and you want to learn best practices, grab innovation, get a sense of who's doing it right, top of the class in the nation, right? Whether it's innovation, entrepreneurialism, energy policies, taxing policies, doing good business, attracting people to their city, who's doing it right? They called it the most influential cities in the nation. Denver was number 4 in the nation. Number 4 in the nation. And this comes from mayors talking about it, right? And they do. They call saying, you're doing something, we want to get a best practice out of you. Tell me about this certain policy here. Ahead of us was New York, Boston, University of Boston, go figure, Boston, and Austin. And Denver is often mentioned one tongue in cheek with Boston.
Yep.
I mean Austin, one under the other. Why? Because we're the 1 and 2 destinations, number 1, 2, or 3, along with DC, attraction of the intellectual capital of this nation, the millennial generation. Okay, so our downtown, and when you ask those young people why they want to come to Denver, they love our downtown. The vibrancy of downtown. They love our urban lifestyle. They love the fact we've invested in transit. They love how friendly Denver is, and the fact that it's such an innovative, entrepreneurial city. And those are things that are attracting people to Denver. Those are the things that we're able to sell all over the world, quite frankly. And I started by talking about being on the road because those are the things that are calling people, people are calling us to say, come talk about this. We want to hear how you were able to do this. Did I answer your question, Brian? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Other question? Yes, ma'am.
Julie.
How is the marijuana industry affecting that for you?
Listen, first of all, sales tax forecasts around marijuana have exceeded our forecasts, our projections. We started January 1, right? We're probably looking at about $4 million in sales taxes. We're looking at probably 7, maybe 8. So it's pretty robust. Our rollout of the marijuana regulations or retail industry was pretty smooth. The industry, some of you, 1 or 2 of you in this room may be marijuana investors. The reality is that the marijuana investors, those who have set up these retail shops, are legitimate, serious businessmen and women. They are putting their hard-earned money and investments on the line. They don't want this industry to go bad any more than we do. And so they came to the table and said, we want to help you craft these regulations. We're not the ones who are standing at Civic Center Park saying we're going to have a big smoke out. They're not the ones saying, let us smoke where we want to smoke. Or going down the mall, want to blow in people's face. That's not them. They're like, we want you to handle that because that puts a bad brand on our industry. And so they work with us. I applaud the industry because they have been tremendous partners, and we'll continue to work with them. So right now it's gone smoothly. But I'll tell you this in closing, that I always said we will learn as we go along, because this is a whole new industry. Colorado is the first state, whether it's a nation state or a United States, a state in the United States of America, to ever legalize recreational marijuana in the world. People think Holland did it. Holland didn't do it. They tolerated marijuana. They never legalized it. And so we legalized it. And so it's an experiment that no one else has tried. So we have no one to turn to. Amsterdam was calling us after a while. Yeah, I mean, they were. So
Other states calling you as well?
oh yeah, absolutely. I appointed a marijuana policy director, Ashley Kilroy. And Ashley spends a lot of her time on the phone consulting with the media or other states. There are 22 states, by the way, that have legalization of some form of marijuana, whether it's medical or recreational, on their ballot for this November.
Absolutely.
Other questions?
Is it
Yes, sir.
Is it driving the tourist industry? a
Oh yeah,
little bit?
well, you know,
Measure it yet?
we can't really measure it. We can't say it. I mean, we've had record-breaking years in tourism last couple of years. We had a lot of tourism this year. I mean, but we broke records last year before it was even legal in Denver. So it's hard to say. I think in the next year or two we'll be able to discern. We know that people are flying here for marijuana. We've seen what we call some travelers in Denver. These are young people who are hitchhiking or, you know, coming into Denver on their last dime, no place to stay for marijuana, and so they panhandle during the day, get high during the afternoon and evenings, and then sleep in our shelters, taking the beds from legitimate homeless. Yes.
It's a clean city, but there's such a black mark when it comes to our homeless population. And I had asked you a question when we were in your quarters, but I'm kind of curious, at that time, will you address the question with some of the things that they're doing to bring the homeless to areas that they can, I don't know, rehabilitate, whatever their issues are, for lack of better words. But I'm just curious how that's going, and if you maybe just talk about that.
Yeah, I think when you're in it, we forget that every major city in this country is dealing with an issue of homelessness. Every major city in this country.
Well, one of the reasons why
Yeah.
I bring it up though is we have a lot of friends that come in town from
Uh-huh.
back east,
Uh-huh.
and everyone just brings it up because they're into the nice neighborhoods. It's not like they're just downtown in the urban areas.
Yeah.
They're like all the way Hilltop and
Yeah.
Crestmore and Lowry. And
Yeah.
it's just,
They're spreading out. Yeah. Yeah. And I can tell you that when you typically see homeless and you notice them, that means you have a center of vibrancy somewhere. That's where people are. They feel safer there than in isolated locations. We are seeing an interesting thing going on in Denver today where you're starting to see them further east, away from just downtown. And it might be because of the number of people homeless that are in one area, and they need to find their space in their market. Okay, so they're no different than entrepreneurs. You want to find your niche and figure out where you can go to get that opportunity. So there are a couple things we're doing. But let me preface it by saying we did a study where we tracked 300 chronically homeless for 4 years. And we found a couple of interesting things out about them. First of all, in those 4 years, they accounted for 14,000 nights in jail per year.
Those 300.
300. That's your common denominator is the 300 we're tracking. 14,000 nights in jail per year. They accounted for 2,400 visits to detox per year. They accounted for 1,000 arrests, 600 visits to the emergency room. 300 people per year, costing you and me $11 million a year. That's the tax bill. The city of Denver spends 300 people. This is 300, the same 300 people that we tracked per year. The judges will tell you we see the same people over and over again. That's the cycle. From street to jail, back to the streets to the emergency room, back from the emergency room to the street to detox, and then back. So it leads you to a different conclusion. Now we enter the market saying we got to house people. Okay, the housing first model works when you are not mentally ill or you're not addicted. If I'm just episodically homeless, I got divorced, I lost a job, I made a boo-boo, maybe have a minor addiction that got me in trouble, I just got released from jail, haven't found a place to settle down. That's what I would consider episodic homeless, and we're most successful in serving those people. But the chronically homeless, those who are dealing with chronic mental health issues and addictions, are the ones we struggle with the most because we don't address their issues. They're the cycle. And so what we decided to do, once we had this we can quantify this, we had this analysis done. There's a new concept going across the nation called social impact bonds, SIBs. And cities like New York and Chicago and cities in Connecticut are picking up on this. And what they do is they go to the market and say, we've identified a social problem. We can quantify the impact. In other words, if we solve problems along the way, we're able to save money. For example, now that we know it's 14,000 nights in jail, one night that we decrease a homeless in jail saves the city of Denver money. One less visit to the emergency room saves you and me money, right? Those savings can go to help pay off debt if an investor invests in a social enterprise. Major banks like Goldman Sachs are behind us. They're big time, okay? Because it fulfills their social mission, but also their social mission, but also their entrepreneurial or business side. And so we're going to do a social impact bond. I announced it at the Clinton Global Initiative. We're going to target these 300 and those who are suffering from mental health illness and say, we're going to sell $8 million worth of social impact bonds. We're going to create housing and wrap them with mental health and drug addiction rehabilitation services to get to those 300 who are costing the city the biggest bulk of our $11 million a year. Okay? It's going to be a heavy lift, but one in which the market has already shown that they will invest in. They did it in New York, they did it in Chicago, they did it in cities in Connecticut, and they'll do it here in Denver. After I made that announcement and went viral, we were contacted by a lot of investment houses saying, we can help you with this. $8 million is nothing. We'll build housing, yes. Huh?
I was going to say, is the court system in lockstep with that?
Oh, absolutely.
So the judge or the court will say, you know what, your deferred sentence is you have to go to this place so that they don't show up and back out on the street to go get their fix or whatever.
Absolutely.
It's almost like the lumen of going to prison.
Yeah, it's a combination of working with the courts, combination of police officers also knowing how to, being trained. Does someone need to go to jail? They need to go to rehab. They need to get help. And so we're trying to take a different bent. We are part of the challenge you're seeing in the sheriff's department today that we've all been reading about. Is that we got an overwhelming number of mentally ill people coming into that jail. Question is, do they belong here? Or do we need to get them treatment? And so what we're doing, to your question, is trying to approach this issue of homelessness differently. The homeless that you see are usually mentally sick or addicted to something. Episodic homeless are not the ones you see on the street. They're with family, they're with friends, they're in the shelters. They are not on the street. You don't see them downtown, for the most part. Between emergency room and Denver Health and detox and shelters, outreach workers, getting people off the street, particularly during inclement weather, we are spending an awful lot of money dealing with homeless in this city.
Thoughts on the best recommendation for what to do when you drive up and they ask for money?
Don't.
It's all.
Yeah, no. Don't. It doesn't help them. What helps them is to donate to the rescue mission. Okay. Colorado Coalition for the Homeless.
There's a specific one that's the best.
They're all, yeah, I mean, we got a list of them down at City Hall. You can go online and find the best homeless. Urban Rescue Mission, Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, Salvation Army. Those are the folks who are on the street. If you want to serve women, there are organizations that serve women.
Sorry, you had mentioned when we met the little buckets that you put in the DIA.
Oh, yeah. So if you're like me, first of all, I don't usually carry change, but we have, when you go through the security lines of DIA, they're little change buckets. And if you throw your change, because they're going to make you take it out your pocket anyway, right? Throw it in there. We donate that to the homeless programs in Denver. We were able to raise almost $100,000 doing that last year. And so I encourage you, if you got change in your pocket, before you clear it, get in line, toss it in a bucket. That money goes directly to the homeless programs. Okay. Yes, one more question, I'll take off.
How do those social bonds work?
Same as if the city of Denver issued municipal bonds. So we're always in the bond market. We got to raise $30 million for DIA for some reason. We get underwriters, we go to the market, people come in, they buy those bonds, they're sold at a certain interest rate, and we pay you back, of course, principal and interest over a certain period of time, usually 20, 25 years. But it's the same theory, it's just based on a social quantifiably outcomes that we're trying to measure.
Okay.
Same thing. They're tax exempt, absolutely. Same as anything else. Thank you guys for this. I gotta
Thank
take off.
you.
Solid, man. I appreciate you.
I really appreciate
Anytime
it.
you want,
Appreciate
okay?
you.
Anytime you want.